Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 508 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have a special crew this week. Everyone's here, but we're coming to you from MagicCon Vegas. We're over in the Westgate Hotel. We got the whole crew, starting with Richard. How are you doing today, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing very well.
Me too. Krim, how are you on 3 hours of sleep this morning? Having a good Vegas?
3 hours of sleep, blew my voice out from a lot of sweet announcements and just meeting lots of folks. So, I'm going to sound a little hoarse and like I'm finally hitting puberty.
Speaking of sweet announcements, we have some huge announcements to talk about today, which is actually going to be our main topic of the cast. We're going over a bunch of big news that they announced on Friday at MagicCon Vegas. So we're going to be covering that. But before we get into it, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit. And Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service and send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to use their sorted service, you can list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. And either way, you're going to get a detailed list with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic. And let's start with what I think is the biggest news of this weekend, which Wizards announced the next year of Magic and kind of the future of Magic. And I think the biggest news is they're changing the way that Standard works, that Magic sets works. Basically, the TLDR is, starting next year, we're getting 6 Standard sets a year. Every Premier set's going to be Standard legal, and half of those sets are going to be Universes Beyond IPs. So we know we're getting Final Fantasy first, then we're getting a Marvel Spider-Man set, and then at the end of next year, we're going to be getting an unannounced Universes Beyond set, and in between, we have some Magic sets. We're going to Ether Drift, which seems to be like another Kaladesh set, right? Ether Revolt, Kaladesh, but the Death Race going across the plains. We're getting Return to Tarkir, and then Edge of Eternities, which is the space set. So super curious what you guys think about this announcement. The big news, I think, is Universes Beyond Standard legal going forward.
We need to spoil one more thing, though, because I think part of this got people off, which is the SpongeBob Universes Beyond Secret Lair.
So we should say,
but
when they say Universes Beyond is Standard legal, Premier sets or tentpole sets, like the Lord of the Rings set is Standard legal. Secret Lair is still not Standard legal, and like they might do some Commander precons like the Warhammer decks. Those would also not be Standard legal. But 3 Premier Universes Beyond sets a year, those are all going to be Standard legal.
So Lord of the Rings would theoretically be Standard legal,
yes,
but Fallout or Warhammer would not be.
Yeah. Let's not even say that, because I think people already think the One Ring and Bowmasters are coming to Standard. Because that is not the case.
No, that's
future Lord of the Rings.
That was also made for modern power levels, but it had booster packs essentially. If it comes in a box with booster packs, that kind of set would be legal.
Draftable sets, the draftable Universes Beyond sets, not retroactively. So we're not going back and making Lord of the Rings legal, but any future sets like that will be Standard legal.
So it's Sunday morning when we're recording this, and we already got a taste of the community reaction, and already on like Reddit and Twitter, people are not happy. They're not happy, right? The Walking Dead people are out saying, I told you, it's a slippery slope. We're here.
I mean, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. Having said that, though, the hype for Marvel, the hype for Final Fantasy, I think is real. So I'm actually very excited to see what's happening in Standard, because we talked about this on the podcast. We said, give it a year or two, it's going to Standard. Right, and we just talked about it, and they just talked about it back, right? But it's gonna happen next year, right? So it's happening on this time frame. It's expected, because if they want everyone to play Standard, and they want everyone, and Universes Beyond is the most popular card, it's going to Standard, right? That way you can play it on Arena, you can play it in Standard. They can hopefully print lower power level cards. Like they don't need to power creep all of Modern just to make sure the IP is playable. So I personally, cautiously optimistic, right? So Magic is changing, and we're going to see if we still like it next year. But my guess is I personally will, right? Because that means next year I'll be playing Final Fantasy, I'll be playing Marvel in Standard. SpongeBob is throwing me for a loop. I'm like, I don't know about SpongeBob, right? But, It's worked so far. It's worked so far, right? So the SpongeBob is the weird, like, if they didn't reveal SpongeBob, I don't think there'd be as much of an uproar, right? Because SpongeBob gives you a taste of what universes we can join, right? And having an entire SpongeBob standard set, which it's not, right? It's a Secret Lair, but you can see how it can very quickly become a literal Disney one, an Elsa set or something, right? Or a Mickey Mouse set into standard.
Where like there was this Cardboard Crack comic when they first announced Universes Beyond that was about like attacking with a Mountain Dew and all the different characters. I think we've gotten like halfway through that comic now of cards actually being printed. We haven't quite got to SpongeBob attacking in Legacy, but we're maybe on that road.
I mean, are we not there? You got some squirrel equipping Mjolnir, right? And then there's like a glass cutter or something from Dustmore. Like there's just like random stuff happening. So maybe we're already there.
What do you think about this announcement, Grim? What's your initial reaction?
Wow, there's so many new standard players that are going to quit, apparently, because I don't know when there were this many standard players.
That's the other fun thing. Where was all the standard support?
Yo, where did all these standard players come from? That's so sick. In all seriousness, though, I mean, I don't have to say much, right? I'm excited for this much like you are. And mostly for some of the reasons you mentioned, right? We don't have to worry about a forced one ring, a forced, like random power creep card so that it can be modern legal, right? You can just have, because, Elrond enjoyers took a ton of L's from the Lord of the Rings set because, well, almost every version of Elrond sucked. And so because of that, now you at least have a chance. Let's say this is an underpowered character you love. Let's say like Doctor Strange sucks or something like that. Or whatever, Spider-Man sucks, unlikely. But if any of these cards are bad, I can at least enjoy them outside of I can play them in another 60 card format that isn't just Commander.
But couldn't you already play them in Commander, the most popular format? Why does it need to be in Standard and Pioneer too? You already had like the most popular format in all of Magic where you can play all those cards.
Because I don't play just Commander. You see, the thing is I am of the demographic where I want to play with my IPs everywhere. So I am the exact person that I feel like this was made for, right? I mean, this one is where I get to play the Super Smash Bros. I like that kind of mashup, or as the internet likes to call it, I think they mean it in a positive way, slop. So I'm a slop enjoyer. Call me the slop goblin, right? Like you can clip that. The point is,
that's gonna be a short.
I am all about this because of those exact reasons. Because I mean, it's so cool, and let's also dial it back for a second. I know there's a big concern about like the erasure of like Magic as well.
Magic,
like
IP, the lore, right?
I do not think, like, if we split that, like right now, let's say it's 50%, right? 50% Universes Beyond, 50% Magic. I think we're still having it all, right? Like, I think the difference here is
So we didn't say this, but as part of the announcement, they pushed back Lorwyn and pulled up
I love, but
a Universes Beyond set. So that is another indicator that Magic lore is being pushed behind, or the Magic universe is being pushed behind. And currently it's 50-50, but I can almost guarantee you next year it'll be 75-25, right? And then the year after it'll be 90-10. And it's how much Wizards wants to try to preserve the IP just for the sake of preserving it. Because I can guarantee you Marvel will be the greatest selling set of all time. Final Fantasy will be the greatest selling set of all time. And then we're gonna get some random Magic IP like Ether Drift. That's the Death Ray set. Just be like numbers, right? So when you're Wizards and you're looking at that, you're like, what do the fans like? They like Marvel, like Final Fantasy, and Ether Drift is right. So they're gonna just keep making more Universes Beyond, right? So I think the numbers will trend that way, and I think we will go down unless someone is actually like, this sucks and it's an investment now, right? Like Magic IP is an investment now, and we know it sucks, but we're gonna put resources into it. But like Walking Dead, every Universes Beyond they made was the best-selling thing of all time. And that's why we're here, where they're making everything Universes Beyond. So I do feel Magic lore is gonna be diminished, but the question is, does that matter, right? Like, I think that's the question, right? Like, do we need to preserve Magic lore or maybe it goes away and comes back, but it's definitely trending down, right? It's trending down compared to like a couple of years ago, and it's going to continue trending down next year, right?
I mean, we're still getting cool planes, right? It's not like we have the space set. You have the death race set. You can call it Mario Kart the set. You can call it whatever you want. I'm enjoying that Magic is exploring these cool new planes as well. So you're getting the adventures in the world of Magic. You're also getting like the Marvel, the Final Fantasies. So for me, this is just my playground, right?
Bloomborough is the
Bloomborough
is the Magic lore
these are-
that's super popular, right? Like Bloomborough was the best.
which is Redwall, by the way.
The thing that makes me nervous about this is like, if we go back 3 years in time when they were first announcing Universes Beyond, it was like, don't worry, it's not standard legal. It's all opt-in. This is an additive thing. You know, don't worry, it's not going to harm your Magic sets at all. And now 3 years in the future, we're pushing back Lorwyn. It's in every format. So who's to say 3 years from now, it's not 90% UB or 100%? Like, one of the things I've taken away for this is things change so quickly at WotC, and based on, I guess, probably new information like sales data showing like how big these sets are selling, that something they said a year or two ago kind of means literally nothing today. Like, I put 0 weight in something they announced 2 years ago because things could have changed by now. We see that with this announcement, right? Like, can we put any weight in Wizards saying, oh, don't worry, it's going to be 50-50, when they were saying, oh, don't worry, it's not going to be in standard not that long ago?
The core mission set is treated exactly like they treat organized play and like the ban list rules. Just every year they say something, and then every year they're like, we changed our mind, it's going to be this. Some people say that's a negative. Done appropriately, that's a positive, right? You're supposed to take new information, right? And then use that information and make changes. Now, if you're just flip-flopping all the time, that's a little bad, right? So, you know, like they started Walking Dead. It actually did very popular despite what you would think on you know, social media, right? And then they made a little more Secret Lairs, and then they made Lord of the Rings. They made, you know, 40K D&D, and every time they did that, it got better. They got more and more sales. They got more and more praise outside of social media, right? Like, Magic is the biggest it's ever been. So it's logical that they continue doing that, right? It's also logical that Bloomborough was one of the greatest sets of all time, and that shows that there's strength in Magic IP. So you would presume that they'd take that and do something with that, right? Which is continue to try to uphold Magic IP. So things change. I don't really knock Wizards, right? This seems to make sense. We called it out. The question is, will we enjoy the game next year? And I look at it as like your old time friends. You know, we all had childhood friends. Some of them you grew up with, right? And then things change and you drift apart. Others, you remain friends and you keep going, right? But as a person, you keep evolving, and then you keep getting new friends, and maybe some of your old friends stay around, maybe they don't, but I don't know, right? Like, it's a 30-year-old thing that's evolving. It can't stay the same, because if it stayed the same, we'd be playing with like 5 people at our LGS playing Legends draft or something. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't be as big as we are today if not for all the changes that happen along the way. But, you know, sometimes change is bad and you lose all your friends and you're sitting at home all sad. I don't know, right? But I say in general, it's like your best friend in middle school. Do you still talk with them? Some people do, some people do not, right? And it's kind of just natural progression, right?
So you're saying that some people probably just won't like Magic anymore because of this change,
right? Some people will drift away, right? But so here's the question, right? If one OG Magic player leaves, replaced by 3 new Magic players, is that good or bad?
I mean, I think that's probably good, although I do have a concern with some of these new players. Like, if you're someone who doesn't care about Magic, but you love Final Fantasy, you're probably going to buy the Final Fantasy set. Are you going to buy Edge of Eternities 3 months later? Are you going to buy Spider-Man 2 months after that? Or do you just come in and buy your Final Fantasy cards and then go back to playing Final Fantasy on your PlayStation 5?
This is Gossip Girl, Seth. So when you go to college and you ditch all your longtime high school friends to hang out with the cool kids, right? Will you remain friends with the cool kids past, 6 months?
Yep.
Right? And I don't know, right? But that's the hope. And I don't even know if the answer of ditching one old-time player for 3 new players is right, even if they're 3 long-time players, because you got rid of your original community and you have a new community. So that's bad for the old community.
Oh, yeah.
Good for the new community, right? So, but I don't know if that's... So according to Hasbro Wallace, that would be good. right? But according to the community, is that good or bad? I don't know, right? That's for you to decide, right?
I know they posted some data from one of their investor calls or something that said a third of Magic players have started playing in the last 3 years. A third has been 10 years, and a third are like old boomers, 20 plus years. So that's roughly the breakdown right now. So it seems like that's pretty good new player acquisition, like in just the last few years. So I imagine that's what they're going for. But it's still really tough if you're someone who's been playing since beta or playing like, and that's just what you love. And that's what Magic's been about for you, seeing it change into something else. I don't know. It's kind of, I always think of either music or YouTube for comparisons because that's what I know the best. And like, there are bands that I really love that decide to do new things. And it's fine that they decide to do new things, but sometimes I don't like those albums and I don't listen to them. And I want to go back and listen to the albums that I love from 20 years ago. That doesn't mean they're a bad band now, but I don't think it's unfair to not like the new thing that someone's doing. So I can see why people would be very upset about it. I'm skeptical of this change, I would say. I think how much of your positive reaction to this is based on the IPs? Like, what if this was next year, instead of Spider-Man, it's Dora the Explorer? We're doing Dora the Explorer, full set, draft it. Like, are we still going to be like fist pumping? Or are we going to be like, what, that is going on, Watsy?
I mean, I would treat it like anything else that I haven't liked, right? It's like cool, like in Magic. Like I didn't like Lord of the Rings.
But do you just not play Standard then?
No,
not play
no.
Pine? Not play any format for 3 years until it rotates?
I play it. Like I don't mind it, right? Because if I'm speaking from a competitive mindset, I will play whatever, right? I will play whatever's good. Like otherwise, I mean, for Standard, if I didn't like Lord of the Rings, and if that went to Standard, I would play it, right? It's fine. It doesn't like Lord of the Rings and these IPs that I don't care about are going to not really affect my enjoyment because I'm still having fun playing the game. And then on top of that, I have other IPs. They aren't all going to be bangers. I know that I won't like all of them.
I actually just went through this, right? You guys know I hate Dustborn. I hate everything horror. Krim tried to trick me into watching The Exorcist, and thank God I was saved because you would have ruined my entire life. What did you get, Terrifier 3 or some garbage?
Yeah.
Thank God we don't. He bought on DVD, but apparently we don't have a single disc drive in the amongst anyone here. So that's all great. But I hate Dustborn. I hate the lore. I don't want anything to do with horror. And I grinded so much Dustborn Limited, you wouldn't believe, and I just ignore all of it. Right? Like the fact that it's a scary whatever, like I don't know where it came from. I don't know what it's doing. Like if it's replaced by a guy in a red spandex suit with a spider on it, if I don't care about it, it's like it's not the end of the world, right? Just like I don't care about like half the characters in Outlaws of Thunder Junction or whatever. So it actually didn't matter, which is what I'm trying to say. And Dustborn has got me primed for whatever the next bad universe is beyond this. Right? There's Princess Bride or something, which I actually enjoyed the movie as a kid, but I thought it was like way out of place. There's Monty Python, right?
These are all secret lairs.
Yeah. They're like all these things that, when I see in a game of Commander, it's not like, oh my God, my game is ruined. I was like, what is this card? Okay, right.
Could there be an IP though that would actually just make you embarrassed to play Magic? I know I've
You know what it would be actually?
Okay, good.
Anime.
Okay,
look, the only thing that starts getting weird is when there's inappropriate art on cards, right? And the closer you trend to that, the more awkward it gets, right? And that would be certain Japanese card games, right? We're not gonna call them out, right? So you might actually be embarrassed to play it, or you might not want to play it.
Yeah.
And I allude at this because in Foundations, anime art is coming, and there's waifu Lanamore elves. That would be the thing, right? But if it's like Elsa, if it's, I don't know, like it's gonna be popular, right? And if it's popular, it's already part of your life. Like Hello Kitty, like are you gonna freak out because there's a Hello Kitty Secret Lair or Secret Lair standard set? Like you see Hello Kitty everywhere, right? We went to Forever 21 to get a bag for reasons, and Hello Kitty's everywhere. We'd be like, oh my God, I can't go shopping because I see Hello Kitty. Like, oh, you're just like cool, and then you go, right? So it's not that bad, right?
I think it's a parent who here has grown up as a child in the 90s, right? like it's very apparent here because just seeing the reaction, right? You can tell one demographic is probably a little bit older and one is very younger because growing up, you see these mashups, right? You see these IPs collaborating all the time across the board, across hobbies, across anything, ads, everything. So And on top of that, I think if you read comics, you're used to a shared universe. So you see characters popping up all the time. And
But they're within the same
Oh, dude,
universe.
if
though,
they
right?
just threw like an Elsa into your Doctor Strange, you'd be like, wow, I love this.
I hate classic Disney IP.
All right.
And if you told me that there's a Frozen set,
But
I would like be like, cool. Thank God I know there's more after this because we just need to go past this one. And then I'll play Olaf, right? Like you know what I mean? Like
but that's the argument against Universes Beyond, right? They're like, I hate Universes Beyond altogether. Thank God we'll just go past it and then go next. But go next is like 6 more Universes Beyond before you get back to Magic.
I mean, the game is fun, right? But like for you, I don't care. Like that was my Bloomburrow experience. I don't care about Bloomburrow. I think there's good cards in there, but like the lore and everything just doesn't do it for me. So I just didn't care, and I was like, okay, I'll play the cards, move forward, right? Like the cards are fun, the game is fun. Don't care about the rabbits and all of that.
Do you think it's real? So there's a lot of outrage right now, but as Magic players, we just, have outrage and then on to next, right? Do you think people are actually going to quit and it'll be a substantial impact? Or is it just like, Walking Dead sucks, and then the game grew like 3x right after, right?
probably both. Like, I think there are people who will quit. We've seen examples of this. We saw with like organized play changes, like tons of people being like, this game, what I loved about Magic was going to grind these tournaments. I can't do that anymore. I'm going to play Flesh and Blood. I'm going to play another game where I can do what I want. I think there are going to be some people who this is just like the deal breaker for them. I think the online reaction, though, is always more extreme than it is in reality. And I will say, from reading like the Reddit posts and tweets and stuff, there are a lot of people like, oh, I imagine all those people at Vegas, I bet, they're stomping out of the Magic Con because they're so upset about this announcement. And the reaction of people who are actually at the Magic Con, like jamming Commander games or whatever, has been kind of like, meh. Like some people are like, yeah, I kind of like Marvel. That's going to be cool. Some people are like, whatever, I don't care. Like, here's my Commander. So I feel like the IRL reaction from the event where they announced this has been very different than the internet reaction.
Paying several $1,000s to come to Vegas, come to MagicCon, and then storm out, Seth.
I mean, like the response to the Marvel panel that I did was phenomenal, right? Like people loved seeing like even cards that were already shown, just the secret layers. Like they loved that. So, and after the panel talked to a lot of people, there was genuine joy. And like, it was really cool sharing the love for all these things with the people that, I can vibe with, right? Like these people are like, thank you so much for like being the voice of reason. There's so much negativity. And it's like, there really is a lot of negativity online.
It's the IP, right?
It's
because
also Marvel.
Yeah, it's Marvel.
Is more like, just like there was barely a whisper of Lord of the Rings, right? Because the intersection of Lord of the Rings and Magic is very high, right? So people love Lord of the Rings. It's when you get to SpongeBob where it's a question. And apparently people love SpongeBob too. But that's interesting, right? A lot of people like SpongeBob, but they're like, is this right? Right? So that's the interesting part, right?
Yeah, the thing is, like, I kind of think about it like our YouTube channel. Like, we make Magic content. If we posted a SpongeBob video, it would go really badly. That doesn't mean SpongeBob sucks. And I think even a lot of the people who would be ranting in our comments, they might be watching a SpongeBob video that someone else made because they also like SpongeBob, but it's not necessarily what you want out of Magic. So I think there's some people who are like, I love SpongeBob, I love Magic. I don't necessarily want those two things to combine.
Yeah. All right. So Universes Beyond, we'll see how it actually plays out. Curious what our viewers and listeners think. The more concerning of all these announcements to me is 6 standard sets a year. Yeah. That's a lot of standard sets. Are they going to have time to test anything? Are we going to have time to acquire anything? Right? Like, do you even have your Bloomburrow cards before Duskmourn releases? Do you have your Duskmourn cards before the next thing releases? Are we in perpetual spoiler season? Was a big concern, right? And Wizard says, I hear you. We're adding more.
Yeah, I mean,
Wait, how many sets was this year?
Well, we get 4 standard sets a year. So 4 standard sets, up to 6 standard sets. We also got like direct to modern sets and so forth. So that's some of the shift. If you look at the schedule for next year, February 14th, Ether Drift, less than 2 months later on 4/11, we get Tarkir Return. Less than 2 months after that, Final Fantasy. And then like a month, 6 weeks after that, Edge of Eternity. So we're getting a new standard legal set every 6 to 8 weeks, basically, through the year. And
Fast.
I think that's a real concern. And also just like the size of standard. Like if you're someone who is trying to get into standard, you have to get cards from 3 years ago from a whole bunch of sets, and that might not be practical. Like, I know that you've talked about this with like Marvel Snap, how hard it is to like take a break and then catch back up. I feel like we're gonna have some of those issues with Standard, with just like this massive card pool that might make it less accessible. I know they're trying to make it more accessible by adding Universes Beyond, but it might actually be harder to get into Standard because of this massive, ever-changing card pool.
I mean, I feel this is the death of paper Standard.
Which is funny because I
which is
think they're
funny,
trying to do
yeah.
the opposite thing.
So I'll tell you my One Piece experience. I literally play One Piece once a week, right? Once a week, every week. New set releases, I order cards. It takes like 2 to 3 weeks for them to come to me, right? I can play like 2 or 3 events, and then with the Magic schedule, the next set is already out, right? My deck is already changing. And then, you know, sometimes my cards get lost in the mail or whatever, or, you know, whatever, like you don't even have enough time for card acquisition.
Yeah.
Play your deck before the new thing is out and like you're talking about it, right? And it's really bad because while your cards are in the mail, spoilers for the next set are already coming out, and you're already brewing the next thing before you even appreciated the cards
or if we even got a
you
chance
bought.
to play maybe
Yeah,
the
right?
deck that you built from the last set.
I feel we're going way too fast. Like, I saw so many cards this weekend that I've never seen before. And you know, what is it? Oh, it's from March of the Machines Commander, right? This was like a Doctor Who card, because for every set we just glaze the top, right? We see what's the most broken thing? Nadu. And then, oh, new spoilers, time to go to the next one. So we don't get to go all the way down and see every commander and actually experience them. So this is the scariest change for me. Like 6 standard sets, 3-year rotation.
Yeah.
That means 18 sets in Standard at its peak. Like, you're gonna have to power creep the crap out of, like, how do you beat Shieldred, Seth? How do you beat Shieldred? Every set needs to beat Shieldred. Like, that is gonna be rough.
Not really.
I mean, so
not good right now. It's just solid.
No, but like, you gotta make a 4-drop better than Shieldred, right?
Right.
Like,
You gotta
every
keep-
single set,
And
right?
I'm-
And
I
you
worry
gotta do
that
it every time.
I worry that gets even more concerning when you add Universes Beyond to the mix, because I just feel like there's this external pressure to make sure the iconic characters are good, right? So you can't make Spider-Man suck in a Spider-Man set. You have to have one that's standard playable, and then the next set has to power creep Spider-Man, and when you have so many sets, it could lead to, I think, power creep spiking even more, right? Doesn't that seem possible at least? So we see even more of a snowball of power creep?
I mean, I think that if you're designing for Standard, that's the reason why I love this. Like, okay, so from a Standard player's perspective, yes, this is the biggest concern. There are 6 sets, right? But as long as you're designing for Standard, this tells me that I think that you can easily go and just, how you make it so that Spider-Man is good without worrying about like, oh, power creeping is what they did with Lord of the Rings. There's like 5 different Peter Parkers, right? So as long as you do 5 different Peter Parkers, sure.
But the One Ring. Like, you only need one ring to be legal and standard for 3 years, with Wizards believing not in ever banning anything only once a year. And I don't even know what their deals are with people. Like, we don't know that. That's another of my issues with this. Could they, like, what are their contracts with this stuff? Do they actually have the ability to manage their formats? Do they have other companies looking over their shoulders and being like, you can't ban this, you can't do it? Like, we just don't know, right? We don't know what their deals look like. I think it's a concern. I think it's a big concern.
So actually, ironically, I think Universes Beyond might save power creep, right? So currently today, the only thing that determines the price of a standard card is how strong it is, right? Well, and then also strength in other formats, obviously, right? But if you look at every other card game, it's not solely that, right? A big factor is how popular that character is. So I don't know anything about Pokemon, but I do know if there's some shiny Charizard, it's going to command a premium, right? In One Piece, if it's a Nami, it's going to command a premium, right? And people will buy these cards even if they suck, right? So you don't need to go all out, right? If you give me a manga Nami, it can suck crap. It's going to be worth so much money. So the hope is Spider-Man can just be playable, right? He doesn't need to be like insane. He doesn't need to be cracked, and he will command a premium because it's Spider-Man, right? Therefore, you have a lot more knobs to change now. Every card doesn't need to be powerful. The favorite characters can get the special treatment, right? And you can save the power, you can distribute it differently, right? And you sell based on love of character. And that's a very powerful thing.
that sounds good in theory, but the One Ring, like the most iconic card from the set, and they like disregarded what their contractor said and made it the 50% of every deck in Modern card that's destroying the format. Like I don't know if I have that much faith in. It's kind of like Commander. Whenever you listen to people talk about Commander, like, oh, just unban everything because players will show restraint. I don't know if I trust that WotC has the restraint when they have the ability to power creep
You
stuff.
have no choice but to trust WotC, Seth. And we've trusted
But why would
WotC
we-
all the way until now, right?
But what about 3 years ago saying, don't worry, it's not coming to standard, this is an edit? Why do we trust them when they keep saying things that end up not going the way that they said?
Why is standard the line though? Like I don't, is it because it's the last pure format with no universes beyond? Because we have universes beyond in Commander, we have universes beyond in Modern, we have accelerated release schedules for both of those formats. So why is standard the line that everyone's drawing now? And like, oh, this is too much. Because it's the last one. Like it's the last line.
I
right?
think there's no opt out now. There's
Yeah.
like literally no. And honestly, it makes me sadder for Pioneer than Standard. Like honestly,
What's
Universe,
wrong with Pioneer?
because I think the identity of Pioneer is like not having all these supplemental products and stuff. And now that's like the one thing that I loved about Pioneer
Not
is like,
supplemental anymore, Seth. It's a main set.
yeah, it still feels supplemental to me.
So
but-
today, if you wanted to dodge Universes Beyond, you could play Standard, right? And the only thing that can intersect is like Secret Lair Standard playables, but those are far and few
a
between.
reprint, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's the last line.
I mean, honestly, if the game's good, I'm still gonna enjoy it. But it does disappoint me that all the slippery slope stuff is kind of coming true. Like all the stuff Lansky said wouldn't happen is now kind of happening. So I feel like there is trust broken there for me. If the game's good, it's not gonna matter because I'm like still gonna love Magic. So if Spider-Man is like leading to a great Standard format, I'm gonna love it. It still disappoints me that I feel like I can't trust WotC when they say these things because they're proving that to me that I can't trust them.
I still think it's working though. So anecdotally, since we're at MagicCon, every year at MagicCon, we meet tons and tons of fans. For the most part, especially in the early days, they were all like longtime fans.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've been playing since Homelands or something, right? Like
Yep.
this year in particular, met so many people that started playing like 2 years less.
Yep.
And I met so many young people, like actual
Yep.
Zoomers, not fake Zoomers like Crim, but like real Zoomers.
Fake Zoomer.
Right? And a lot of people are like, I got in because of 40K. And what makes me sad is a lot of them are apologetic, right? They're like, yeah, I'm one of those Universes Beyond guys. And they're like apologetic about it because they know the community hates Universes Beyond. I'm like, dude, you don't need to apologize because you got in because of 40K, right? But they were the ones that did the Wizards thing, right? They got into 40K and then they loved it. And then they got into the rest of the Magic IP and they played since. And I would say, like, not trying to shill or anything, but this is the first year where a significant number of people were like this. Whereas the previous years at MagicCons, it's just like, yeah, Tarmogoyf back in the good old days, right? Like, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I think it's not just corporate speak. I think I can actually tangibly see it around me that new players are coming in and they're integrating into the community. So I have faith this will work. And then I've personally seen the hype for Marvel, and I am hyped for Final Fantasy. So I don't think the world is falling apart next year. Maybe the year after we fall apart. Maybe the year after we fall apart. But next year seems solid, and I think it's gonna be like Lord of the Rings. I think it's gonna be a banger, and then we'll move on. I think that's the thing.
I think that's probably true. I do worry that there's, I think, a limited number of S tier Universes Beyond IPs. Sometimes run into this like
Return to Lord of the Rings, Seth.
Yeah, maybe,
It's time
maybe
for the
that's-
Hobbit set.
Dude, just keep going
It's
back
time,
to it
and plus
again.
we can never run out of Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just always do Marvel though, right?
Yeah, we gotta go. We gotta go DC, right? And we're like, yo, you can't beat the MCU, but maybe you can beat the Marvel set.
So I will say the overall community reaction has been very negative to this. I know Sam Ristic Studies, one of my favorite creators, great YouTube videos, wrote a pretty scathing article with his feelings about it. I don't know, did you catch that article by chance, Richard? What do you think of Sam's article? Like I think he's expressing maybe the Magic Boomer perspective to some extent. Like, what did you make of that article?
So I actually really like that he has a professional relationship with Wizards,
Yep.
right? And he basically did the highest form of protest, right? Which is essentially be like, no, like this is done. I'm calling you out on this. Like I do not like this. And he put forth a bunch of arguments as to why this is not a good thing for Magic and the slippery slope, right? And some of it is like, we're people are saying we're doing this to grow the brand. It'll be better for the whole community. But he's saying, like, to what end, right? Like the snake eating its tail or whatever. Like, you're just going to do this to make more universes beyond. We're going to lose the community that built this game up. You're abandoning them. It's bad. I think it was well written. I think it's really good that he actually said this, right? Because a lot of people believe this and don't say it, right? Because they don't want to burn their bridges with Wizards. They want to, try to keep things going. However, like, my stance, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know if it's better for the game, but I know it's inevitable, and then we're gonna see. But I do know, I don't know that it's better for me, but I do know that it's probably better for Wizards, and that there will be more Magic players, and the Magic community will be bigger, but it may not be the original Magic community, right? Like that. The question is, will the original Magic community stay with it, right? And I don't know. And it's like, you have a party with 3 friends. I'm just drawing from all high school drama, right? And then you invite one guy, right? And then they're like, oh, can I bring like 5 friends? And then those 6 people come over, and then you had fun board game night lined up, and they're like, yo, we're just gonna play ball in the park, and then the whole party goes there, and you're like, what? Right? So like the question is, do they all come and play Smash Bros with you, or do they come and then take the party somewhere else and like ditch you, right? And I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be bad. I think there are people at Wizards that actually care about it, and their job is to make sure that this plays out, right? And so far, I think they've done a good job. And I don't know if people agree with me with that, right? But so far, I think Lord of the Rings, 40K, D&D, and then Marvel, Final Fantasy.
For their big sets and commander sets, I would agree with
that.
Some of the secret layers, maybe a little more hit or miss.
But they know, right? They know that, okay, this one, a little sus. We'll just put it as a secret layer, right? So far it's worked out. And they're not evil, I think. I think they're trying to grow the game, and they understand what we want. But also they have so much data. The data is sales, right? And people are talking about like buying Marvel because it's going to sell out. If you do not like Marvel, please do not do this. Right? Because you send the wrong signal, right? When Wizards sees that they made like millions and millions of dollars in like 5 seconds, but it's actually full of people that hate Marvel, but they're just trying to resell it, right? It sends the wrong signal to Wizards. So if you actually do not enjoy the IP and do not enjoy the game, do not partake, right? And then that would send the signal to Wizards that, hey, we're doing it wrong. Let's readjust, right?
I actually wanted to ask you that because that's one of the big justifications or arguments for this I've seen from Wizards is basically, look at how much we sell, like best-selling set. Yep. Like, obviously, you're voting with your wallets and saying, you want this. And if you don't want this, basically, you're outvoted by the community. We're doing what the most people in the community want, and we have data to back this up. Is sales data a good way to judge that, though? Like, look at Pokemon or some other games. There's other games that sell tons of cards, but their actual game isn't very popular, right? Like, isn't Pokemon a game that's based on people buying cards, but not necessarily that many of them playing the game? Is there any risk that they can make a ton of money selling these sets, but the actual game of Magic goes downhill and ends up sucking, even though they're breaking sales records? Like, that would be,
maybe,
I'm not sure.
Maybe, I don't know, right? We evolve into just a collectible game with no gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, okay, we got to move on and hit up a couple other topics. Very curious, though, everyone's reaction to this announcement. There's also a full video of the panel that Wizards did at the Magic Con announcing all this on their YouTube. So if you want to see all the announcement live with crowd reactions and stuff, you can check that out. There was another part of the announcement that I think was overwhelmingly positive, though, that not controversial, which is MSRP coming back, which has been a big issue for 5 years, like a long time now since they removed MSRP. So starting with Foundations, coming back for most products, not necessarily every product, but they actually have a list out for Foundations, Play Boosters, $5.25, Collector Boosters, $24.99. You can go through the list. How big of a deal is this? Does MSRP actually matter, or is this just like a copium thing where we think it matters and we feel like things are going to be cheaper or better with MSRP when in reality it's a suggestion and doesn't really matter at all?
It's pure cope unless Wizards has something that says you're not allowed to sell over MSRP.
Yeah.
Right? Because the MSRP will be like, I don't know what it is, like $4 or $5 a pack. They're going to multiply it by the number of packs in a box. And that's the price you never pay. Yeah. Right? Because usually you, like back in the good old days, like you could like the MSRP of a booster box was like
$68
I think it was like 120 or 150 or something, but you would realistically buy them for like 90.
Yeah.
Right. And if it was anything above that, that was wrong. Like that was overpriced. Right. The only thing I think it helps us with is when they release a new product, like they're like, this is Modern Horizons 4. They set an MSRP. You can tell that relative to the standard booster pack MSRP, the value that Wizards assigns to this.
Right.
Right. So that's the only useful thing. Like, let me tell you, One Piece has an MSRP. You never buy anything at MSRP. It does not matter, right? You buy everything overpriced because you can't find availability, or it's super underpriced because they have too much stock. You're buying it at literally Costco. You can buy Magic at Costco, right? So MSRP just helps you when they launch a new product and you're like, what is this? But you see the pack price and you know, oh, it's premium, right?
Right. I think where it helps is like you have some whatever Modern Horizons 3 high-end commander decks that are priced higher, normal ones priced lower. This lets you at a glance know like, okay, am I being like charged double what Wizards thinks it should be, or is this just like a premium product where it's actually like worth more for some reason? So it does have its upsides, but you're right, it doesn't. I mean, even with MSRP, stuff sold out, prices were, I mean, remember from the vaults, and like there are these products that sell for way more than MSRP. So I don't think it actually changes prices on things, but I think it is helpful to consumers to be able to like easily know if they're being charged way more than
like when they made the play booster.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, if I knew what the price of a set booster is, and I knew what the price of a draft booster is, I knew what the price of a collector booster is. When they unveil the play booster, I can gauge my expectation
how
as
much did
to
the price increase from Wizards' perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the good news. Any other thoughts about any of the announcement stuff before we move on to hit up a couple other quick topics? I know the last thing is Krim. I know you were there for this announcement. SpongeBob, Universes Beyond Secret Lair drop. How did that go over? Did you think? Because I didn't get to see it. What do people think of that one?
Well, at least my section of the room, and primarily how I lost my voice.
oh no, this is SpongeBob.
There was a lot of like, it went right, and then I yelled, "I'm a goofy goober," and I yelled it so loud, my voice blew out halfway through, and it echoed off the other wall. So to put it in short, you know, as I hold this adorable SpongeBob deck box, I am very excited, about everything coming from the Secret Lair, SpongeBob. I'm kind of sad that it is not a full set, because I would have loved to have gone to a Bikini Bottom. I mean, I already had like the idea that someone could yell like there's a thing where in the show somebody yells "my leg" anytime anything bad happens, any kind of pain. So that could be a removal spell. I mean, like there's so many fun things that could happen, and I'm just excited. The reaction from my side of the room was overwhelmingly positive. So,
yeah.
That's the fan tint, Krim. That's because you love SpongeBob. You're interpreting everything positively. We heard the panel on the video, and it seemed kind of mixed. It seemed like, we're like, are we supposed to be excited or confused? Excited or confused? But speaking of people just casually at the MagicCon, everyone is like, oh my God, I'm so excited to build Iron Man. Like, oh my God, Storm, right? Like Final Fantasy, right? Like almost universally everyone. And then almost universally SpongeBob, everyone's like, eh? Right? They're like, question mark? They're not necessarily upset at it, and they're not like hype about it, but they're like, that's weird. Yeah. How do I process this? I'm confused. And universally, that seemed to be the reaction across everyone I met on the floor. Not at the panel, like in the command zone, right? So that's interesting. But like Marvel and Final Fantasy, like no contest, right? Like everyone is hyped through the roof about those.
Asking most of my commander pods, like, oh, what's your hype level for like Marvel and Final Fantasy? And I think there's been a couple neutrals, but almost everyone is like, I'm super hyped for this set. I can't wait on building this commander. So yeah, I think those IDs are going to do super well. Unannouncement stuff. We got a banning this week, Krim, and best of one standard. Something we've talked about for like a couple months on the podcast. Wizards getting rid of Leyline of Resonance. So any thoughts on that?
I guess it was only a matter of time, right? I mean, if there was a chance that you could die on turn 2 or 3 in standard, that's probably not great. So,
Should say just best of one. No best of 3 banning yet, which You think that's all right? Like, is that card okay for best of 3? It still has the same play pattern, but it's not as prevalent, right?
It-
So you don't see it nearly as often.
It's still top aided, the world. So like I think that that is something maybe we do need to keep an eye on. So I would keep an eye on it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Because I mean, the play pattern is the same. If that's the big issue, is it's not win rate, it's play pattern. It still does have that play pattern in best of 3. I think it was definitely a good change, and I do applaud Wizards for not waiting super long because they just announced like a week before, we're keeping an eye on this, and then pretty quickly they were like, all right, we're getting rid of this. So
Too many frowny faces.
This is exactly what should happen, though, right?
I'm actually frowny face on that deck no matter what. Just for that, even if I enjoyed the game, just for the rest of the best of 1 players out there, to for my homies, I'd mash the frowny face.
You got it. I downvote that all the time as well. But like that card is scary. Now imagine, okay, you have Joe Schmo on the ladder playing it, but then you have a pro player playing that deck, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's a very scary card.
I've been told no skill deck, Krim. You win no skill.
That's what everybody likes to tell you, but that means that if it's a no skill to win at an average level, good Lord, if you have skill, like you are going to terrorize the format.
All right, so I think the last topic I really want to bring up is we had Worlds this week. The Worlds going on this weekend. As we're recording this, we have the top 8. We don't actually know who has won yet, but I think the big takeaway that has made everyone super happy is Kai back in World Championship in the top 8. This was a big year because we got his cancer diagnosis. That's been going on. Renamed the Player of the Year championship after him. So cool to see Kai, 25 years after the greatest run in the history of competitive Magic back in the early 2000s, still making the top 8. So super cool. What did you think of how they had Worlds set up at the actual con? Because you could kind of walk by and rail a little bit, but I wish they had TVs or something, because you can't really see the games, right? I couldn't find a way to watch the games. You can see the players in the distance, but I wish there was more of a viewing room or something.
I think this might be the most awkward spot that they've ever had a pro tour, dude. Like it's dead center in between the front entrance and the back of the play wall, right? The play area. So you're actually centered. And I remember a while back we had a complaint that it's too loud, right? Around the
Yeah.
But now just imagine a bunch of screaming people around you, right? Like this, instead of I don't know, a big stage
Yeah.
So I thought it was very awkward. You could tell the entire room, you could hear a pin drop in there, right? It was so quiet around there, but then there's just people running around so
Yeah.
I thought that was awkward, and I agree. I don't know why we can't view it anywhere.
Yeah, it's weird
Because no one viewed it. I remember because they usually have a TV there and then seats, and there'd be 3 people watching Worlds. So I think they're just
But monitors, right? Like a big monitor.
No, that's what I meant. It was just literally a monitor, and then there were seats, and then no one would be there. So I think
But why don't they have that now?
Because no one would be there.
But you can watch it while you walk by and wait in between rounds. It was pretty cool.
The only thing is, it just tells me how sad competitive Magic is. Every day we bust by it. There's some players milling around there. You see all the pros standing there. No one's even approaching them. I'm like, oh, it's so sad. Competitive Magic, right? What happened? And then I'm like, I don't have time to think about this. Gotta go buy Miku, right? I mean, it's better than a couple years ago where game nights was happening, literally over.
That was,
and it's
that was right next to them.
Yeah. But it was it's you're going to a literal football game. Right? You're stadium cheering, floor rumbling, so hype, and then Worlds was just
it was so deceiving. I remember that because I thought that was some sick play that happened because I'm used to the old pro days. But it was just oh my God, wait, oh, hold on. They're just next to Game Nights Live. That is so awkward. But now they're just, I can't tell if that's more awkward or where they are this year. I think this year is really awkward.
I think it is
because you always walk by it.
Yeah, it's painfully awkward.
It's always in sight.
It probably is quieter than being next to the main stage. So I guess that's
sure.
outside, but the actual physical location is very, very, very awkward. Yeah. Let's do a couple fish mail. We got a couple fish mail questions to wrap up the KOS today. And I really want to ask you this one, Richard. This one's for you. Homerow at homerow.gg. And MTGGoldfish Not sure if this is a fish mail, but I was just wondering, how's baby Ether doing? And have you learned any life skills from Magic that translate into parenting? Is
I'm
there
right
anything
here.
you've learned from Magic that you can apply to parenting?
I am right here. Legitimately.
My son is right here.
Yes.
Ether's doing great. He's gonna become a magic artist if those still exist. He's got the most fearsome drawing for a 2.5-year-old you've ever seen. He can draw cars very well. He can draw clouds.
Awesome.
He almost broke my Liliana statue. we try to keep him out of the studio office, but he wanders in there. But yeah, everything's been going great. Tips that translate.
Yeah. Any magic skills that translate to this are there?
Just don't get salty. I don't know. Kids be kidsing.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. It's just
Pretty good one.
we're pretty let him do whatever he wants and don't get salty, because I know a lot of people, like, kids just like do kids things
Yeah.
and they get like really upset, and
Kids being kids.
we're like, well, bad RNG. Just shit have moles, you know. You know. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, people ask, "Hey, am I gonna get him to Magic?" I'm like, yeah. I'm just trying to get him a Pokemon. He's not buying it. He's not getting into Pokemon yet.
What do you think the age is where you can realistically
Brainwash him?
Yeah.
Around now. I think.
So bad. I just say it out loud. Oh my God, that sounds so
Look,
bad.
you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? If you share the same hobby. It's like when you're
No,
when you're-
this is
when
a
your
bad
partner-
idea.
Wait, no. Okay, wait. So, we all have hobbies, and a lot of people are like, I want my partner to have the same hobbies so we can do the same thing. But other people are like, we need separate hobbies because I don't want to see you 24/7. Right? I'm of the camp that he will play Magic. He will destroy me at the age of 7. Right? He will be like, Tarmogoyf, what is this garbage? Give me my SpongeBob. Give me my SpongeBob Miku deck. Right? And we're gonna roll the Pro Tour.
Your child sounds exactly like my taste right now. SpongeBob Miku deck? Wow, I'm building the same deck.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna get him into Magic, or I'm gonna try to get him into Magic. And of course, we'll see. I think he will overtake me at age 7. It'll be worse, right? Like, there's the physical overtaking.
Right.
I think the card game overtaking will be much faster.
I mean, that's what you want as a parent, though. Eventually, you're at your children to
You do, but then you're also very sad at the same time that you're so washed.
Yeah.
Right? Right? You're like, I knew this day was coming. I just wished it was later. Great for you. Very sad for me. Very
I
sad.
am only worried about one thing. If you get your child into the same hobby, because I thought about this too. I don't have one. But the main thing here is like, hey, what happens if they bring our shared collection to school, trade the cards away?
Oh no, they get their own collection.
Okay.
They're not touching my card.
Okay, that's what I was like. You want to...
Here's some bulk.
Give them the draft chaff. Yeah, they can start
Because-
off with that.
when I was like 8 or 9 or whatever, I think 99, so yeah, 8 or so, or 7, I went and brought my Pokemon cards to school. And I traded just some foil cards away that are like I traded like a Chansey first edition foil for a non-foil Haunter, which is, when you think about it, if that was my dad's first edition like Chansey, oh Lord, I would be getting
That's
Yeah,
all like
that.
Black Lotus for Shivan Dragon, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's a life lesson, crew. It's a life lesson. You gotta bite the bullet for future.
Are you gonna teach your child no trading? like no trading ever?
No. It's a trading card game, crew. We
Okay,
gotta bring
all
back
right.
trades. We were just talking about how come no one trades anymore.
True, actually.
Right.
True.
Like, part of the fun is trading, right? Like the shopping at a Magicon you can do every week by just looking at someone's trade binder, right?
You know what? That's a good. The next MagicCon, I'm just gonna bring binders and I'm just gonna try to trade.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to find the cards I want by trade.
It's too sweaty now, right? Like,
Yeah.
So I was thinking, they gave out the comics at the panel, right? The
Yeah.
Storm and the Wolverine, and you got a random ticket.
Yeah.
Right now, back in the good old days, if I got Storm, I love Storm, but I love Wolverine more. I would go trade Storm for Wolverine. But in 2024, I can't do that, right? I'd be like, well, we gotta look up the price here and we'll see which one is worth more. And oh, good sir, mine is worth 25% more. We gotta make the difference. You know, like
yeah.
we've lost the magic of just like, I have a Storm, you have a Wolverine, we both like the opposite character, switch, right? And that's what we used to do as kids, but we can't do that anymore. We gotta be like, oh, well, you know, this one's more premium, and oh no, this is a gem mint, you know, this has a sweat mark on it, you know. So we've lost that magic. I don't know.
We also got older. I don't think the kids are factoring that in.
I mean, the young kids, but like if you're like 15 or something, would you still be doing this?
If I knew that this was my only way to acquire certain cards, sure, I'd probably scam myself. Like the main thing is, I did see people do that with the comic books, by the way.
It did. Did someone get wrecked?
No.
The same price.
I mean, I don't even know the price differences, but it was so cool just seeing people go, hey, I love Wolverine. Oh, I love Storm. Cool, let's trade. So many people were just doing that across the board and across the floor this weekend. And it was so cool to see that. And this was the first time in a long time that I think I felt the exact youthful side of like the trading world, right? It's just like, wow, who cares? Just give me that, right? That's what I want. I wish they printed all the other characters as well as comics, but you know, what can you do?
I got one more thing that we're gonna wrap up for this week. So we're staying at the Westgate. We found down in the sports book, they have this graded card machine, right? It's like $80 or $100. You can get a random graded TCG card, which I think is mostly Pokemon.
It was a PSA 10.
It's only Pokemon, okay, or a graded sports card. We were trying to figure out if it would be worth doing Crim. I think you said you actually had a friend that tried it. How did the graded card $100 pull or $80 pull go?
So at first they opened a Galarian Articuno, right? And this is a $30 card. I'm like, okay, clearly that is much less than $80.
Yeah.
But okay, so they're not just all duds.
Okay, it's worth something.
Yeah, it's worth something. Cool. So they went back and they got another one for $80. And it's a $2 card that is at PSA 10. So I'm just like, wow, that's so trash. And they really drive home the chance that you can win a Charizard, a rare Gengar, all these things. But it's just like kind of heartbreaking that you see these terrible cards that are slabbed at 10.
Yeah.
Is this machine a scam? Like, how does this machine exist?
I imagine that what happens is like there probably was like a Charizard or something in there, like one of them, and then a lot of jank. So I'm sure the math lines up that whoever's doing this is making money on it. Like the house always wins. We're in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
So but I bet there was some like I think it's possible that you could probably get $1,000 card out of there or something at one point.
If you get a PSA 10 Charizard, it is more than $1,000.
If they advertise the PSA 10 Charizard, you have to average out so the EV equals the pull. So that means there are a ton of $2 cards in there, right?
Like a slot machine,
yeah, right.
Like someone wins the $15,000 like grand, and everyone else loses all their money to pay for that.
I wonder if it's regulated. Like, you know how everything in Vegas is regulated?
Yeah.
I wonder if like they had to pass some commission and be like, yeah, there actually is a Charizard in here. You're good to go. Your rake is this. That's within legal limits. Or is it like it's actually just a scam, right? There's no Charizard whatsoever. It's just $10 bulk in there. That would be shady, right? Yeah. But if there was a Charizard and it's a 1 in 1,000 chance to pull, that's still legit. That's not good.
Machine.
That's still not a scam, just not good to gamble. But
it sounds like it's someone's collection, right? And they're just like, you know what? This is my collection. I'm getting out. I'm cashing out. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it into a gotcha. Yeah, this is how you buy lists. Now my question is, with all the new IPs coming in, will we finally get a Magic PSA 10? I personally go with CGC. A graded 10 Magic vending machine.
Maybe in a few years.
Well, we were talking about like who buys slabs.
Yeah.
Right. So you were there, Seth. Me, you, and Seth Phil. We were selling our close your ears, Krim. Doctor Strange counter spells.
You did what?
Okay, here's the story. Doctor Strange counter spell. Day 1, rumor has it, vendors buying it for $150. Everyone at the con gets one. Day 2, we're told about this. Seth goes to the con like 10 minutes earlier than us, sells it for $50. Me and Phil show up. We sell for $40.
Drop $10 in that.
Yeah, we dropped Seth tanked our value. But while we were standing there, some guy rolled up and bought a serialized One Ring, the movie art poster one,
Yeah.
for 15 grand. Right. And he was like, oh, I have an appointment. It's he's buying like a $15,000 card. And we're like, did we hear that right? And then he pulls out this giant wad of cash. And did you know that it's like a drug deal? They have like a professional like money counting thing.
Yeah.
They count it several, like one guy counts it manually, then they run it through the machine 5 times. 9 grand of cash, 6K digitally apparently. But we just watched
Sorry, I can only bring 9K.
like that was wild that someone just bought a $15,000 serialized slabbed One Ring, and it sounded like from the way they were talking that they were keeping it. Like, they were talking like they were a fan or something, not that it was a business transaction. They were just going to sell it in their store, but it sounded like he was going to keep it. So that was wild to me that we're like $40.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange cribbling about $10 or whatever, right? And then this is just like, bam, $9,000, right? Like not the One Ring serialized. I don't know what the number was, but it was a One Ring that was serialized.
I'm not surprised anymore. That normally would be like, oh my God, right? That's insane. Why would you do that? But then I was at New York Comic Con and I watched people just buying original sketch pages from comics. This is like the oldest newspaper material. And it's like the original panel of Thor like slamming his hammer down, right? Like, and dude, that was like 75 grand. And I'm just like, oh.
We just haven't seen it that much in Magic.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The high-end slab stuff. I guess the original Magic art can be very expensive.
Right?
But yeah, we haven't really seen as much Magic, but I think Universes Beyond might bring that, right? If we're seeing this high-end slab stuff, so far it's been Lord of the Rings type stuff, so maybe with Marvel and Final Fantasy, we'll see even more of that.
I kind of want to slab my counterspell. Even if, I'm not gonna lie to you, I want to slab my counterspell. If I'm willing to slab a Mr. Mime that's $6, I don't mind. I think I'm gonna slab a counterspell.
Is going to be all set to open up his own vending.
Yeah, in a few years, there's gonna be a vending machine in Vegas. Yeah, you can get a Charizard.
It's like, Mr. Mime, what?
What is this trash? Why is it only Mr. Mimes?
On that note, everyone, that brings us to the end of episode 508 of MTG Goldfish Podcast. So, Richard Krem, thanks for hanging out. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So, until then, have a great week, everyone. And this is a crew signing out.